Hi, I'm Steve from Sounds Heavenly. If you don't know who we are and what we do, please take a moment to have a look at our website at soundsheavenly.com. More about that later, but in the meantime, let me tell you about one of the hidden gems of the hi-fi industry. Now, this is a show that's been running for years in Leicestershire, run by a website called the Hifi Wigwam. I must stress that I have no involvement with the organisation of the show. I purely go for fun as a member of the public. But if you Google the Hifi Wigwam, you'll find out all about the show that I've found and that I'd like to tell you about. Now let's get straight into this. This is an absolute gem. Now the beauty of this show is that, as you saw on that picture, there are fantastic systems. Now this year there was something like 40 different rooms set up. The one that we've got here is a perfect example. Now these are not put together by salesmen. This is what I love about this show. Every room is put together by hi-fi enthusiasts. These are their favourite systems, either put together by individuals or by groups of friends who want to showcase the best that they've found and to try and persuade you to get some of their love of the system and the music. And it's absolutely brilliant. I've not seen any other hi-fi show like this, and to be honest, I think this is where the hi-fi enthusiasts should be. So if you've missed the Hifi Wigwam Show 2019, which this year was in Kegworth near East Midlands Airport, let me give you a little walk through what you've missed and why you should be looking out for this show in 2020. So I've not covered all 40 rooms, but what I've done is tried to pick the highlights as I saw them, and let's without further ado show you what we found. So here we've got, if I remember this rightly, we've got a Valve CD player, a Knots analog hyperspace turntable, and preamp and mono Valve power amps, and Dali Helicon 400 speakers. Sounded absolutely superb, nice and rich and full, with plenty of bass. Wandering along the corridor. Now, as a 1980s music fan, I absolutely love this. The classic Yamaha NS1000 monitors, they were used by professional recording studios through the 80s and 90s. Most of my favourite bands were using these to record, so I spent ages in here listening. I must admit, a set of those speakers is very high on my wish list. It was used along with Yamaha. Oh no, sorry, I'm reading wrong notes. We had an acoustic signature analog one and Technics SP10 turntables, musical fidelity and neat ultimatum for the electronics. So really, really nice system. Wandering along the corridor, I just love this. The old reel-to-reel tape system sounded lovely. A tangential turntable that's not Bang and Olufsen. Now that was an unusual one. Really, really nice sound, along with conventional radial tracking turntable and really nice musical fidelity, the stereo amp system. Where else would you find a setup like this? Absolutely incredible. Moving along a little bit further, I just had to show you a close-up of that reel-to-reel tape recorder. Brilliant. One of the old Technics RS 1500s. Really, really nice. And again, there we are, that lovely tangential tracking turntable. That is an acoustic signature analog one, I think, if I've got my notes correctly. And then, wow, I didn't expect to see this. These are homemade JBL 4430 studio reference monitors. So this is, for me, just what the show is all about. A hi-fi enthusiast has found the spec of the original monitors and rebuilt them from scratch, including making the cabinets, sourcing all the parts. They sound incredible. Yeah, I'm inspired. I feel as though I should be wanting to put together something like this. And then right at the other end of the scale, gentleman who is a dyed-in-the-wool Sony enthusiast. So we've got a full 1970s and 80s Sony system, turntable, the flat diaphragm speakers, mini cassette system, 8-track Sony amps, Sony effects processing. Really quite something to behold. A little bit dark, but we've got here some lovely quad electrostatics. Favourite of mine, let me find my notes and see specifically which speakers these were. These were, sorry about this, can't find them, but they were very nice speakers with twin subs. So here we are. There were quad 2912s with two REL S3 subs, driven by quad 405.2. Really nice. For me, the restriction of the room meant that those electrostatic panels didn't give out a lot of bass naturally, so the two subs really boosted them quite nicely. However, a little bit further on, I'll show you, I've actually had a rethink about electrostatics, and I'm quite a fan. But more of that later. Quite an unusual one here. Now these are NVA BB cubes. Quite unusual. Woofer on the top panel, tweeter at the front, and then mid-range is pointing outwards at the sides. Driven by twin mono NVA power amps and a CD player. So quite an unusual system. Took a little bit of getting used to, but yeah, quite a refreshing change to the usual type of sound. And again, talking of refreshing changes, there were quite a lot of home-built speakers. Nice example here, some little mini 7-litre two-way shelf mount or stand mount speakers, driven by twin mono power amps with range of digital sources. So yeah, quite a nice little sound, nice and clear treble. And again, this was quite an inspiration for me. The gentleman who ran the system here has actually built both sets of speakers. Now, although the outer speakers, labelled as B with the tag on top, have a tannoy badge, that purely apparently refers to the drive units. The cabinet design is a pure DIY, as with the inner version, which use... now, let me find you the details of the drivers. I think they were Tangband drivers, so were quite a well-renowned Far Eastern company. The sounds were quite impressive, especially with the DSP switched in that was being used. So DSP does seem to be becoming quite a factor in a lot of audiophile systems, and in this case, yeah, it transformed what was quite a nice but slightly lifeless overall sound into a really sort of energetic, a really nice tuneful system. Moving on again, we've got some active monitor speakers. These were Dutch & Dutch 8Cs with, again, active DSP, but run from an Auralic Aries G1 streamer. So, again, quite a nice lively system. And one of the surprising highlights for me of the show, one that we went back to a couple of times, was actually an accident. The gentleman had a very high-spec hi-fi system in place that blew up shortly before the show. So as a last-minute change, he put in some very basic Goodman's Maxim 2 speakers run from a PC and a very tiny Class D amp. And it worked really well. Obviously not quite up to the smoothness and range of some of the bigger systems, but it showed really what can be done with less than £100 and a love of music. So really, really nice system, really enjoyable to listen to. And quite an unexpected one for me. The gentleman who ran the system here, that's shown at a bit of an oblique angle, had got DIY twin cabinet speakers, 2 sets of two-way speakers, powered by a B&O Create Hifi Berry system. So it was quite nice to hear that in action. This is basically a 4-channel combined power amp source and DSP processor. So it gave some really nice results. Admittedly, the cabinets didn't cope with a lot of deep bass, but for acoustic and vocal music, these were absolutely lovely. And I was really quite interested to see the B&O Create system in use in a non-B&O system. It's a very nice little board, well put together and very adaptable. And that's, so far I'd only ever seen that used in little mini CX100 and CX50 B&O speakers. So it's really encouraging to see that that actually makes for the basis of a really good third-party system. Now, I was hoping, as well as the B&O Create board, to see a classic B&O system involving a B&O 1000 turntable, which bizarrely my parents had one of those when I was about 3 or 4 years old, and I suppose my future was destined to involve hi-fi. One of my earliest memories is very carefully raising and lowering the tone arm control on that and being told off every time I went near it, even though I was being as careful as I could. But yeah, I think from that moment I've got the love of well-crafted hi-fi equipment. As we move on, something that I'm really surprised I've not heard in 45 years of loving hi-fi, and that is Harbeth speakers. Let me just find you the model number of these. These were HLM Mark 1s. So if I remember right, these are Harbeth's professional monitor series. Not particularly room friendly in terms of dimensions, but if you can get a room that will take them, absolutely incredible. And I've heard these on a range of different electronics through the day, and I was really, really impressed. So they are high on my list of speakers to audition. But unfortunately for my wallet, the one thing that I came away thinking I would sell my car for that are a new speaker from a Swiss firm I'd never heard of before. I think it's pronounced Boenic, but these are the W8 mini floor standers. They absolutely sing. I've not heard anything quite like these. I currently use a pair of Royd Minstrels at home from the 1980s, and these have a similar footprint but far, far more power and presence. So incredible. Nearly £6,000, so not an impulse purchase by any means, but if you want to see what these are the absolute best that compact passive loudspeakers can do, I would suggest that this is where to look. And partnered with those, we saw some very nice valve stages, headphone amps, and yeah, it's really just nice to see what can be done by cherry picking sort of some of the nicest electronics that are out there and not being forced to tie together the same manufacturer's products through the system. Again, for me, part of the beauty of the show was the second set of Yamaha NS1000 monitors, but this time what was special is they've been hand converted to active speakers. So these now have the level controls removed. They're running an active DSP system with a little mic that's shown on the left-hand speaker, and then again a range of nice classic turntable and range of electronics together with a server that's running digital music to them. So kept the nice classic monitor sound, but upped to date really with the driver and made it very room friendly. And then we had the second set of Harbeths of the day. One of them slightly more down to earth home speaker systems, but again, lovely sound, really pleasant and enjoyable. So there were several large rooms at the show. So basically the aim of the show is that the group of hi-fi enthusiasts will take over a large hotel, which in this case is the Kegworth Hotel near to East Midlands Airport. And of the 40 rooms, the majority are small, maybe 10, 12 square metre rooms. And then there are 4 large rooms of probably 25 to 30 square metres each. And they allow the larger systems to really be showcased. So as we move through here, let's find the details. We had quite a lovely, heavily modified system with a Roxanne CD transport, which I really wanted one of these the early version of this back in the 90s. But at the time, my student loan wouldn't stretch anywhere near to it. And we've got a set of KEF 104.3 active speakers, which are the column speakers on the inner side of this. And then they're used alongside some home-built custom upright subwoofers, which are the outer ones with the light wooden cases. And you probably see on top of the KEF speakers, the little shiny cylinders are Fostex super tweeters, which really gave some presence and drive to the system. So it basically, this filled the large room really easily, and you got the feel that there was plenty more power there. So really nice full system. And then, now this was something special. Now, I must admit, a few years ago, on an impulse, I bought some classic quad ESL 57 speakers, tried them out in the lounge. Apart from the fact that they are the ugliest piece of hi-fi equipment I've ever seen, they didn't work for me. They just didn't carry any bass. Tried and tried, but couldn't get them right. And I gave up on electrostatics at that point until now. Now, despite the less than attractive stands, it must be said that these ESL 57s were mounted on, they absolutely sang. And I think, to be honest, talking to the owner, the secret was bringing them forwards in the room. There was probably 2.5 to 3 metres of empty space behind the speakers, and because electrostatics radiate sound out behind them as well as in front, this was the secret. This brought them to life. They're rich and full, and by turning them sideways on, now apparently this sacrifices an otherwise limited horizontal spread of treble and gives them a wide horizontal spread but limits the vertical spread, which worked really well. For a range of listening positions, there was a beautiful sound from these speakers. So unfortunately, I still don't have a living room that will take electrostatic speakers, but maybe one day I'll seriously give this some thought again. So this was the beauty of the show for me. It just opened my eyes as to what can be done with really good hi-fi and a bit of imagination. And then another really nice system in the one of the big rooms. So we had here some, let's see, we have, I unfortunately don't have the notes of these speakers, but we had a listen for quite some time in here. I think, to be honest, these could be focals, looking at the design of the cabinets, possibly even Sonus Faber, but we had really nice sound. Good solid concrete floor on the room here, and it meant that the bass could really punch through. The speakers were nice and solidly mounted. Listened to a bit of vinyl, a few CDs, and really good sound. And the best thing about the show for me was nobody tries to sell you anything. Although, whereas with a conventional hi-fi show, everything is one brand demonstration, everything's up for sale. Here, these are people's own personal systems, and it's not until you get through to the foyer that you find that things get a little bit tempted. There was, of all things, a bring and buy sale. This is an absolute Aladdin's cave. We've got wonderful old gadgets. We've got open reel tape recorders, turntable wall stands, speaker stands, bookshelf speakers. I was very tempted with some of the old speakers, some Lin cans at bargain prices, some lovely old slanted top speakers that you can see towards the back, the right hand side there, early CD players, amps, an old Bang and Olufsen B&O Master receiver, some really, really nice bits of kit there that you could spend months searching on eBay and not find half of these. And you probably see in the centre there some Sonus Faber, look like granite and wood floor stands for some of their little, I think it's the concertos or the little stand mount speakers. So really, really nice items, and a range of tone arms, and there was also a record stall. So the show, despite it being completely non-commercial, could actually become quite an expensive day out. So as you probably gather, I absolutely love this show. I've been going for 5 or 6 years now. Previously, this was at Scorford Hall near Melton Mowbray in Leicestershire, which is very local for me. The last couple of years, this has been at Kegworth, near to East Midlands Airport. Well worth the journey. People are travelling from all over Europe for this show, and it's one that I'll be returning to time and time again. I've made good friends here, and it's a real pleasing breath of fresh air compared to normal commercial hi-fi shows. Obviously, I must stress I'm not involved in this in any way at all. I purely go as a member of the public just to enjoy the show. You probably gather, if you're new to my channel, when I'm not on my days off and visiting hi-fi shows, I am actually involved in hi-fi. So if you can bear with me a moment, I'll show you a little bit about what I do for my day job, why I'm just so enthusiastic about music and hi-fi. As I mentioned at the start, Sounds Heavenly is the company that I've set up. If you have a quick look, if you've got a moment, at soundsheavenly.com, you'll see my ugly mug there. Basically, I love making the connections and the cabling to make classic, bespoke and unusual hi-fi systems work together, even where the manufacturers say that's not possible. So probably 75% of what we do is supporting Bang and Olufsen. So you'll see behind me some Beolab 3000 active wall panel speakers from the early 90s. Also in the room I've got some, just off camera at the front, some Beolab Penta active tower speakers. I absolutely love Bang & Olufsen, both for the sound and the style. So I started out 14, 15 years ago making sort of cabling like this. So just as an example, this allows some of the newer digitally amplified Bang & Olufsen speakers, so Beolab 3, Beolab 9s, to work with a generic AV receiver. Traditionally, the manufacturers had suggested either having an installer to custom modify cables for you on site, or providing a range of adapters that clip together, which caused unreliable connections and poor sound. So we've been really pleased actually with just how popular niche products like this have been, and also, as I mentioned earlier, my love of quad systems has allowed me to just indulge in that in my day job. So here's an example of a cable that allows you to put a generic CD player, so for example the Roxanne Caspian system that we saw earlier, into something like a quad 33, 45, any of the quad systems with the 5-pin inputs. And then to go with that, this will link the 33 to the 303, or the 44 to the 405 if you want a full quad system. And we also keep name versions as well. So by all means, please have a look at soundsheavenly.com. Thank you for watching, and any questions, please get in touch.